You have a chapter that I'm certainly, if you were to expand this book, you'd have more to talk about with
Yes,
many of these
which
women
I do
since
intend to do.
publishing, which is wonderful. The Young Divas chapter, Whitney Houston, God rest her soul, Janet Jackson, and Toni
Mhm.
Braxton, both of whom are still touring.
Yes.
Um, a little bit on each.
Okay. All
For
right.
the youngins. This is for the youngins who are going to be tuning
Oh
in to your
yes, yes, yes,
Substack.
yes, 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 absolutely. Well, let's start with Janet. Here I am, and this is like in the late 90s, and in LA, and getting all kinds of assignments, and so then I had this assignment to do an interview with Janet Jackson for a cover story for Blues and Soul, and off I trot because I've never driven, I've never owned a car. I got a taxi to Malibu, to her lovely plush on the beach mansion at the time. And I get there, and we were supposed to have the interview was supposed to last about an hour. Of course, it didn't. It went on, and it was just really great. And then I reminded her, I think I reminded her, I'm not sure if I did, but that the first time we had met was when Control came out. About 2 weeks before Control came out, I interviewed her at A&M, and she was very nervous because she hadn't done any proper press, and especially with international press, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I don't remember if I actually shared that story with her, but anyway, here we are, we're doing this interview, Malibu, blah, 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 and now it comes to the point where, we wind down. And I said, "Oh, well, thank you. This has been great." I said, "I'd like to now use your phone to call for a taxi because you didn't have Ubers back then." And she turned around to Renee, who was there with her. Do I need to explain who Renee is?
Renee, her husband at the
Her
time.
then husband. She didn't acknowledge him as her husband at that point. But
Correct.
anyway, we could say her companion at the time.
Yes, yes.
So off, she said, "Where?" And she turned. She said, "Where are we going? Where are we?" Where were the two of them going? And he said, "Well, I don't know where he said they were going." He said, "Well, where do you live, David?" I said, "Well, I live, in Mid Worcester district." So Janet says, "Well, can we drop him off?"
It,
Gulp, gulp.
uh,
C c c c sh Sure, no problem. So we get in the Jeep, and one of her dancers was there too. I don't know, they were all going somewhere. I don't know where they were going, but anyway. And we get in the Jeep, and Janet puts on the CD player in the car, and the four of us were singing along to her brother Michael's Thriller album. And I'm like, I mean, Billie Jean. Oh, I mean, all this. I mean, it was like, it was brilliant. It was
okay,
brilliant.
my mouth and Janet Jackson dropped you off home, correct?
That's right. At the end, so she's, Renee was driving. Like, he says, which way, blah, blah. I said, this is right, they dropped me off outside my apartment building. And
OMG.
I got out, Patrick, and I wanted to scream in the street, "Hey, everybody, guess who just dropped me off? Janet Jackson." And a couple of weeks later, when the interview came out, which was
Yes.
not too long after it, she got to see it, and I sent then no she got to see the cover story, and then
Yes.
um a few days later, I got this massive bouquet of flowers
Oh,
and a big thank you, saying thank you for faithfully um sharing my words. In other words, didn't embellish what she said, and that
yes.
was it. So that's the Janet Jackson story. Toni
Oh, she's
Braxton. Toni
such
Braxton.
a class act. Yes, give me Toni Braxton, and we should acknowledge she's going to be touring with New Edition and Boys to Men
Yes.
all through the spring and
Yes,
summer and in
yes.
Europe as well.
Well, she's been here
Tell
already.
us.
They've been to Britain already.
Oh, she's already been there. Okay.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So then that's going to be our leg we're going to get here in 2026.
Yes.
Tell us about Toni
Well, Toni
Braxton.
Braxton's not really a lot to say, but other than when I first met her, I was hired by LA and Babyface, the Face Records,
Yeah.
to do some media coaching. So one of the things I did, Patrick, was I at some point in the interest of reinvention and being able to sustain myself beyond being known simply as a music journalist, which was fine, but to really expand I started media coaching and I did some media coaching with all the Jam and Lewis artists, South of Blackness, Mint Condition, so forth. And then LA and Babyface, I'd known them as producers, they started a face, and after they signed Toni, she had done no media, none. She hadn't done anything. And so they hired me to be her media coach. And I mean, she was very attentive. She listened. The way I would do it is I would set up a session. The first session would be where we would talk about the basics of how to keep a conversation going, how to engage the journalist, how to do all that, and then we would do it was like a pretend interview. It wasn't a real interview, and I would record them on cassettes. And so that was the first sessions, and then the second sessions next day, where I would do a proper interview with no coaching, as if it were an interview. Again,
Yes.
we would record it, and then we would talk about how that went, so she could learn from that if there's anything that didn't really work or work. So I was her first media coach,
Was
and
she a good student?
she absolutely was. She was not nervous. I mean, you could tell that when you haven't, when someone is about to like become a, become, well, she knows she's going to become a major recording artist, but when you begin that journey, there's a lot of nervousness about how to speak in a way that will be engaging. So she was great. And the funniest part was years later, when she wrote her memoirs, she referred to me as her coach, but she referred to me as her vocal coach. I'm like, no, dear, no, 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 no. I
Well,
cannot.
it is worth noting that you do have recordings, David Nathan. Just
Yes.
let the people know.
Oh, yes.
Just by the
By
way.
the way, yes. Well, we can speak about that on another conversation, but
Okay.
yes, that's correct. That's correct. So that's my Toni Braxton story. Whitney, I mean,
Yes,
there's so much to say, but
I know.
and I will condense it into one moment. Oh wow, one moment in time. I didn't mean to say it that way, but really, yeah, one moment in time.
It
So
works.
yes, and Whitney and I, of course, knew each other because I knew her mom, and I remember the first time I saw Whitney ever was at a one of her mom's performances in New York at a play, I think it was called Barney Google's or Reno Sweeties, a nightclub in New York. And I knew Sissy because I met Sissy in 1975. Of course, I knew her family, Dion, all of them. So anyway, so I knew Sissy.
And of course, Dee Dee, your first interview
Of course,
subject. Mhm.
absolutely, all of them, all of them. It was really, I knew the whole clan, so to speak. Anyway, so and I remember meeting Whitney at one of those dates, and because she did a step out, as part of Sissy's show, and Sissy and her then husband John said, "Oh, you like, this is our daughter Whitney." And I said, "Oh my God, she's so amazing! Oh, thank you, thank you." She was shy, she was like out there, and so that was a memory, and she somehow remembered that when we first started talking as her as Whitney Houston, and the connector was also my dear friend John Simmons, who was our first musical director. He was also someone I wrote songs with, and he that made a that also allowed for a different kind of relationship with Whitney because it was like kind of like extended family in a way. But what I
Yes.
want to share with you as the story as we wind down is when Whitney was in London, and of course she was massively popular here as well. And I don't think I was living here at the time. It must have been a visit. And she was performing at where the show was, but wherever she was performing, there was an after party, and John Simmons, who was then still a music director, said, "Oh, we'll come to the after party. Whitney's gonna be here, blah blah blah." So I go to the after party with my sister. I have a sister, younger sister Sylvia. So we go. She was my plus one for the concert. Off we go, and there we are, and chatting with Whitney and her friend Robin, and and John Simmons and Whitney's dad. We're all there together, and they start to play. And I don't think the DJ necessarily knew she was there. Don't think he did. Maybe he did, but he starts playing "I Want to Dance with Somebody."
Ooh.
And Whitney Houston, Robin, me, and my sister. She says, "Let's go on the dance floor." And we lit Patrick, I Want to Dance with Somebody became real. Here we were the four just dancing. I mean, it was like, wow. And I have so many, like I said, treasured memories of. I didn't spend a lot of time with Whitney as she became more popular, but there was a
Yes.
recognition. Whenever she saw me anywhere or I saw her somewhere, it was like, he was like, "Hey, baby." So it was that kind of a familiarity. And
Oh,
yeah, so
I love it. That special trust.